This video is going to demonstrate the second portion of object number 4, problem set number 1. So in the first video, we covered how to create the object and how to go about making all the holes using the hole tool. The second part of this video is going to show you how to create these channels and these circular cuts out of the rest of the body. Now, if we look at this image here, we can kind of see exactly what the sketch is supposed to look like. But the first thing we're going to need to do is get a sketch plane to cut these. Now, one thing to note is that the cuts appear to be perfectly flat on this bottom plane of this part here. So that tells you that the sketch plane is not on this tapered face. If it was on this tapered face, the cuts would be at the same angle as the tapered face. So the first thing we need to do is create a plane to do our drawings on. Now the best way to do that is to find one of the origin planes that will give us essentially the one that we can build off of to create the sketch plane in the place we need it. So this YZ sketch plane is going to be the best one to do this. It's actually has the correct orientation, and we could probably, if we really needed to, use this plane, but that's just hard. Let's not do that. All we have to do is use an offset plane. I'm going to use it through parallel to this plane through a point. Let's just see if I can grab this point in the corner right here. Perfect. So you can see the preview of the plane that it's going to give you is pretty much in the perfect spot for us to create these objects to cut with. All right. Let's see. So there's my point. Give me just a little problem here. All right. Let's start that over again. Let's do parallel to plane through point. I'm going to select the plane I want to be parallel to. And then I will select the point, and there it is. Okay, I'm going to grab my sketch tool, and I'm going to tell it I want to sketch on that new plane. Now the next thing I can do to get maybe a better view, because I really want to sketch it from this right view, because that's the view that we're looking at down here, which I'm going to zoom in on. So this is what I'm trying to recreate. And I find it very helpful to sketch from the perfect on-looking view, which in this case is the straight right side of the view cube. But to do that, I have to somehow get past the outer wall of this part. Well, there's a really nice feature that Inventor does where I can click on the body and I can use that plane we just made to actually kind of cut this in half. So you have to make sure you're in the sketch. Then if you right click on the body, you can click slice graphics. And what that does is it slices the part so you can see what you're working on here. It's kind of a very helpful little feature. All right, now that I can see what I'm doing, I'm going to project the geometry of the existing part, because that is going to be important for what I need to do, because I'm actually using the geometry in several spots with these tangents, with several collinears or parallels, however you want to work that. But essentially what I'm going to be doing is putting a rectangle in and then two half circles. And that rectangle is exactly in the middle of the part, as we can see from the projected image there. So let's see. So there's my midpoint right on the axis line. So I'm going to kind of split that with my rectangle here. And I'm not really going to worry about the size of it yet. Okay. What I can do now is take my coincident and make sure that these 2 points are right in the exact location. Perfect. So now the center point of the center point and the midpoint of the rectangle I just put up there are now in the same place. So that should be perfect going forward. Once I assign dimensions, it should work extremely well. I'm going to grab my 3-point arc tool, and I'm just going to kind of put it over here. You'll see if I zoom in that I can get it to do that tangent. And if you check the sketch you're given, that's exactly what I want to do. So it's easiest to just do it while you put it in. And if you don't, or if it's just not working, sometimes it doesn't work well, you can come back and do the tangent yourself. And what the tangent does is it says this arc has to touch this line at only one point. And that's exactly what it does. Now, one thing to notice here is, so I'm touching here, I have my endpoints there, I need my dimensions now. So let's start putting in all these dimensions that I'm given. I like to use the lines and not the points. Points can move. And that is going to be 0.150. Now from center point to the same reference is 0.275. And that's the same on both sides. All right, now I have the size of these arcs. The left one is 0.125. The right one is 0.125. So that's easy enough to put in. All right. And with that information that I was given, that I replicated, I am now fully constrained. You can click this button if you want to see your constraints. Now, I will say this. When I'm grading my students' work, I don't really care if they use the exact same constraints as long as they achieved the same outcome. So I'm not going to go specifically looking as long as everything's fully constrained, everything's correct, and not using fixes, because that's like usually locks in the wrong information. All right. So that looks good. I'm going to declutter it there. And now I need to cut. So let's go back and look at the larger picture here. So when I start doing my cuts, I noticed that the center little rectangle piece goes both ways all the way through, while the semicircles only go one way. So that tells me right there, this is going to be cut in two different steps. So I'm going to use this sketch more than once. So if I go to extrude, it doesn't really matter which one I do first. I'll do the arcs first, because why not? And we're just going to go make sure we're cutting, and we're going to go through all and make sure we're going the right direction. And that is the direction I need to go. All right, so you can see those two arcs looked like that was perfect. Now I need to go reactivate sketch 3. I did share earlier. I can also do visibility toggle and achieve the same thing. So I'm going to extrude cut the rectangle this time. Make sure I'm on the cut output. I'm going to go through all. But if you notice, I have to do something here because it's only going the one direction. Well, if I go to direction here, I can go both ways. And then I get that cut working all the way through both sides, not just one. So I can do that in one step, whereas if I only did one direction, I'd have to do it in two. Well, that looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and hide this sketch now, turn it off. It's always a good idea to collapse your features too, just cleans everything up. This work plane, I have to make it invisible. This is one of those temporary features that you need to toggle off when you're done using it. You don't have to delete it, just turn it off. All right, now let's see where our home is. So my home view is a little off. It's, what is that, 90 degrees off or so. But that should be a pretty easy fix, especially if you watch any of my earlier videos, you'll know that it is. So the thing I like to do is get as close as I can to the view I need. There's no way I'll get it perfect doing it manually. But once I get it close, I can just go hit the corner of the view cube and it has the perfect orientation. Then I can reset that view by clicking that button and go set current view as home fit to view. Click home again, it'll zoom in slightly, and that is the perfect view of your completed part. You're going to want to make sure you save there. Like I said, make sure it is clean. Always want to have a nice finished clean part without extra stuff hanging out.